and welcome our speaker, Sophia Marie Poulos. She is our guest speaker, and she's a sustainable fashion designer and Remake ambassador based in Oakland and San Francisco. She designs upcycled and hand-dyed fashion and is involved in educating and mobilizing people against fast fashion consumption and against the unethical practices in the industry. She's trying to build community around sustainable fashion as a community organizer for Remake Bay Area. Whether it's organizing clothing swaps or natural dye workshops, she's a force for conscious fashion and for worker rights. Over to you, Sophia.
Thank you, Sarabi, and hello, everyone. I'm very, very excited to be here this evening. I've been keeping my eyes peeled on the chat, and it looks like, we have some fashion designers here, a good group of people with a lot of questions. So I am very excited to show you what I know. This is just from years of just researching and educating myself. Because there's a lot out there, and there's a lot that I still don't know, but this is where certain organizations and certain websites that have these resources are amazing. So I'm very, very excited to share with you what I know. So I'll start off by sharing some slides, and yeah, we'll go from there. Awesome. So yes, thank you so much, Green Sophist and Miss Series. Can everyone see my screen? Just say yes.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, so I am very excited to be here. As I mentioned, the fact that we have, this meetup tonight is important. It is very important to educate ourselves of sustainability topics, especially when it comes to fashion, because we all put on clothes every single day, but we don't really know how clothes are made or what the impact is of when it comes to our buying choices. So it was very informative to watch those two documentaries, and I will kind of share a bit of what I know later on the slides. But I first want to start the slideshow by paying respects to native lands and the land that we are occupying. So the native peoples such as the Ohlone, Chocheneo, Karkin, Ramatayush, Yokuts, Muwekima, and the Miwok. Because there is no sustainability if we don't sustain the native traditions and cultures that are around us, as the system of colonialism is the base of our current flawed system. So I'm going to repeat that. The system of colonialism is the base of our current flawed system. So that's where we are at the moment. So how did I get my start? Well, I've always been interested in fashion ever since I was younger. Graduated high school, I wanted to be a fashion journalist, so I moved to Australia. I studied fashion business out there for about 3 years. I then moved back to San Francisco, where I was born and raised. And I was feeling lost, I had a fashion business certificate underneath my belt, but I needed something more. My partner suggested that I go take a few classes, so I took a sewing class, and I fell in love. I love to create something out of nothing. I loved working with my hands, and then that's how I started to invest in the education of me becoming a fashion designer. So amidst my fashion design years, one evening I watched a documentary on the couch with my sister and my mom, and it was called True Cost. We were all bundled up on the couch. I was eating popcorn. I was super excited because it was a fashion documentary. And literally the first 15 minutes, I remember just putting down my popcorn and just being sick to my stomach. Because in this documentary, which I highly, highly suggest you all watch it, it it just gave a lot of facts in regards to fashion and how detrimental it is to the planet, and that it is the second biggest polluter right besides oil. And most of our clothes are made from oil. So, it's not the best feeling working in the fashion industry to then find out that I'm part of the problem. So I was like, okay, like, what do I do now? So I thought about it and I looked at my practices, and I was upcycling and reconstructing clothes. And I was like, okay, well, I could be part of the solution. I could use my clothing and my designs as statements of protest against fast fashion. And so that's what I started to do. Currently, I am a student at Academy of Art. I gained a presidential scholarship, so I'm going there for textile design. I also, in the photo here, I love natural dyeing. So I take flowers. I also take kitchen scraps such as avocado pits, pomegranate skins, leaves, and I natural dye with them. So I love really acknowledging all that's around me and seeing what is available and using textiles and clothing that is seen as trash. This shirt had a stain on it. Most people will throw it out, but why not dye it? So that's where I go with my fashion. I'm also a community organizer for Remake, which I'm very excited to share with you later in this slide. But it's basically a sustainable nonprofit based in SF and in NY, but it's also worldwide. And they focus on education about the topic of sustainability, especially in fashion. And most of these resources I'm sharing here with you come from Remake. So I'm very, very thankful to be part of a community that provides such support for this activism work. So what is sustainable fashion? So sustainable fashion, it's when a brand has control and they are transparent with their supply chain, meaning from raw materials such as how it's grown to then how it's sold. Transparency is key. It is also about responsibility and protecting the well-being of the people who make our clothes, such as garment workers, as you see in the photo, who made my clothes, and also protecting our consumers as well. If industries was recycled more like they showed in the documentary in Prato, we would be better off. I was so like excited once I saw that documentary because I've never heard about that. And it was great to know that they use 15% of all clothing scraps in the world in Prato. Yes, majority of it is wool, but still they recycle 25 tons a day, and the CO2 emissions are more than halved, so which is great. Imagine if we had factories like this all over the world. That would be amazing. Sustainability also looks like wearing natural fibers and opting for natural dyed clothing. And it's about supporting small local businesses and not big corporations. So all of this requires conscious decision making. It looks like being more involved and staying informed and really, really being aware of our decisions that we make and how we purchase and how we consume. It's about asking questions and getting curious. It's about even holding your favorite brands accountable and, ask them, like, how are my clothes made? Like, where is this cotton grown? And see what answers you get. It's very important, along this process to, keep active and use your voice where it matters, and also your vote. And also remember that clothes that cost less than a cup of coffee cannot be made without consequences. So what is fast fashion? Fast fashion is cheaply made, mass-produced garments, which contributes to tons of greenhouse gases, air pollution, and wastewater, and unethical work practices. So what are the impacts? Well, as mentioned in Fashion is Hot Garbage, an average garment is worn 7 times before it is thrown away. So with mass production, you know, t-shirts can end up being so disposable, just like a cup of coffee, and cost about the same. So they also mentioned like 82 pounds of textile waste each American sends to landfill each year. And in the chat, you know, donation isn't the best because 90% of that ends up going to places such as Contamanto, which is in Africa. It is the second largest, or it's the largest secondhand clothing market in Africa. So we're basically, you know, using the resources from global South, as we call it, because global North overconsumes, and like I mentioned, colonialism at its finest. Fast fashion puts small businesses out of business, and they copy designers all the time. It is super unsafe for BIPOC groups and also women. Majority of the garment workers are women, and there are so many unsafe working conditions. And there's actually the biggest wage theft is happening right now, specifically to the garment workers in India. And it's unfortunate because, you know, all these big corporations are just getting away with it because they know the control they have over these people because they are their only form of income. It's unhealthy for our bodies. So, you know, our skin being the largest organ on our body, it absorbs these textiles. So, you know, most of our clothes are made of polyester. Polyester is made from crude oil, and our body absorbs that. That's why it's important to shop and opt for natural fibers and natural dyes. And yeah, so on top of this, you see on the bottom right, it's a lake full of dye. So when the dyes aren't natural and are synthetic, such as most of the dyes used in our $40 blue jeans, I know that seems expensive, but you know, it costs, you know, in order to make a pair of jeans costs way more than $40. But it then contains like formaldehyde and release toxins into our body and into the earth, poisoning our waterways, and 70% of the waterways in China are contaminated because of the textile and dye industry. So yeah, garment workers, majority of the people are women, and they are in their early 20s. So cheap labor, and these women are basically risking their lives every single day to make our clothes. End up working long hours, and it's difficult. So the labor issues, you know, fashion is not just about buying sustainable clothing. It's definitely a human rights act because who is making our clothes? So the labor issues. So did you know that Los Angeles is the largest production hub for the US? I didn't know this. I just found this out, you know, this last year. So basically in the slides I've written, you know, most garment workers get paid as little as $2.60 an hour through a piece rate system. So this is basically like sweatshops happening in our own backyard, where human labor is still exploited. So this is where it's super important for us to come together like tonight an involved community where we talk about this, because, you know, there's a lot of questions and then a lot of I don't know, or I'm not sure. It's because, you know, this isn't shown in the news, but it is happening right there. But this is why I'm very excited to share that there is ways where we could come together and really make a difference. So the Garment Worker Protection Act was just passed this last summer, and with a big help from Remake. So over 1,500 postcards in support of the SB 62 Act was sent to Governor Newsom, backed by sustainable activists from Remake, and over 22,000 signatures were put on petitions, and support of 50 fashion professors from top schools made this bill pass. So what it did is it created fair pay, and it ended the piece rate system for the garment workers here in California. And it also involved transparency and accountability. So this bill was the first of its kind, which is huge because this is 2021. And the fact that now garment workers are getting paid, you know, a living wage and in healthy working conditions right here in California, like that's huge. So yeah, this is why communities such as Remake and such as the Green Sofa Cinema series are so great. So what is Remake? I keep mentioning it. So Remake is a nonprofit agency organization whose goal is to turn fashion into a force for good. So it's through education, leadership development, transparency reports, and advocacy movements. So there's advocacy movements, right? So it seems that policy is the one way we can really make change. So such as the Pay Up campaign. So during COVID, you could imagine a lot of orders didn't go through and brands weren't being held accountable. So brands basically decided not to pay these factories, where it looked like $22 billion in money was owed to these factories and garment workers globally. That's huge. That's a lot of people without food and without a living, like without even the means to live day by day with. So thanks to Remake, over 272,000 signatures we got on our petition, and which led to H&M, Zara, and 20 other brands agreeing to pay back for their orders, which totaled up to 1 billion in Bangladesh. So this is really big, and this was made through the community of Remake and the ambassadors. So what is an ambassador? A Remake ambassador is a person or a group of people who are passionate about the movement and want to do more, just want to do more when it comes to sustainability. So this is a very large topic, right? Sustainable fashion. It can be very overwhelming, but it seems to be a lot easier when you have a community that supports you. So we have monthly ambassador calls, we have monthly newsletters, and huge international network. We have virtual events and workshops, image and video resources, and they give you all this campaign knowledge while you're in it, which is great. It's really good. So even when I was upcycling and reconstructing clothes, I knew that my designs weren't enough, you know, like I wanted to believe that, but I was like, no, I need to do more. So I knew that the answer was in collective action. That's where the change lies. So by being a Remake ambassador, I feel so much supported in this, and it feels like we are truly making change, but because we have, which is great. So, yep, together we are climate justice leaders. And if you all have interest in sustainability, which you are here, and you want to take it a step further, feel free to reach out to me or my co-host Mihaela, who's on the call, who's on the Zoom as well. And we could send you more information in the chat about signing up to become an ambassador. Your interest doesn't have to lie in fashion, just sustainability, really, because it all comes and ties together. So she's going to drop a link in the chat for you guys. And for the Bay Area, I'm the community organizer for Remake Bay Area, and so is Mihaela. We have our own community here. So we have a WhatsApp chat, a Facebook group. We also coordinate monthly events and clothing swaps and sustainable fashion showcases, meet and greets. It's fun. It's really, really fun. So I want to say you're invited to the next one. The next event we are hosting is a natural dye workshop. So it will be on Saturday, March 19th. I will be doing it on a virtual Zoom call, and I will be sharing how to prolong the life cycle of your garments by teaching you how to natural dye using kitchen scraps. So there's more details on the Eventbrite itself. It's donation based, where all donations will be going to Remake. And yeah, I'm super excited to continue on this, and I'm looking forward to sharing more knowledge and skills with you all as well. So thank you. I think you're mute.
Yes, I'm mute, which I'm still trying to figure out Zoom, but thank you so much, Sophia. And that was such an informative and empowering presentation. And we all learned a lot about what we can do about fast fashion, especially in our local area. If any of you have a question for Sophia, then please just unmute and ask directly. Everyone is welcome to jump in and ask questions or comments. Anybody have any questions for Sophia?
I have a question, Sophia. Just what can an individual do in terms of, you know, finding out where their brand of clothes where it usually shop comes from? Is did shops now or brands tend to put their information online if they are sustainable? Are there ways that, you know, we can check to see if we're buying something that is built in a sustainable fashion?
Yes, definitely. So reach out to them. I mean, there's definitely someone behind the screens. A lot of our action, when I say our, it's Remakes, a lot of the action was done through social media and calling out these big brands like Topshop, Forever 21, and they see that. So if you send them an email, I'm sure to like the resources or the contact, and just say like, hey, I'm wondering what your design process is, or is there somewhere on your website that shows me that? I must also say that there's some websites and some brands out there that are greenwashing. So greenwashing is a term where brands take the eco-conscious, sustainable, and they kind of use it as a marketing scheme when they're not actually eco-conscious or sustainable. And it's very hard to figure out what is true, especially if you're new and can't like read through the dialogue. So I would just ask them for, like, you know, where like specific questions in regards to, you know, how garment workers are paid, where my clothes are made, what dyes are used. So that would be my suggestion.
I think Randy, you had a comment. Randy, did you have a comment, Randy Snook?
Earlier I did. Are you referencing the chat or?
No, you were saying you were considering not purchasing more clothes or like buying less clothes because of climate. And did any of this like inspire you to, not buy more clothes and maybe inspire your fellow students?
Yes, it certainly opened my mind. I was intrigued about this topic, so learning from someone who's knowledgeable, much more knowledgeable about fashion and the behind the scenes work means a lot to me. So yes, thank you.
And if anyone has a favorite thrift store or place where they like to buy used clothes, please put it in the chat. Or if anyone can think of solutions for all of us to follow, please raise your hand or just unmute and let us know.
I saw in the chat someone mentioned clothing swaps, and those are the best. I highly suggest it. They're so much fun. You could do it with your friends, your family, your neighborhood, and it just looks like you exchanging clothes with another person, and they're gently worn, but it's just really nice to see like certain garments life cycle prolong. So we just hosted a clothing swap in December actually, and it was our second one last year. And I had a garment that I saw go through 3 different friend groups, and I was like, oh yeah, like it's awesome. Like it's so nice because it's not going to the landfill. It's going to another person, and they're going to style it differently and wear it differently. And yeah, it's really fun. I know we're planning our next clothing swap in June, so I know that's a bit far, but that's something to keep an eye out for. So in June, if most of you are in the Bay Area, we'll be hosting a clothing swap then.
Okay, great. That's good to know. And then Charisse, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Charisse Fong, you mentioned, is renting clothing like a prom dress or wedding dress considered sustainable? Would you like to talk about your question? If Sophia, do you know about renting clothes?
Okay, so I yeah, because he said in the documentary, he said at the end, the 3 R's, one of them was rent, but then he also mentioned that renting actually creates more CO2 gases than creating clothes. And I'm thinking about like the postal, right? You're sending it through the mail, the dry cleaning, and then it's getting sent back to you. I would just suggest like thrift shops, and then the same thing, clothing swaps. That would be my suggestion. Trading with your friends as well. So yeah, I know renting's hard, right? Because we end up, renting 1 or 2 dresses, because often those websites will like rent your second dress and then you try on one and then return both. And I think it's just not the best, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people also doing stuff out of fabrics, like dead stock fabrics and fabrics that are, from the used clothes that are not being sold in the thrift stores, that are waste, that are going to be thrown. I think there's an organization in New York, I forget the name, Fab Scrap, and they take the old scraps and then they actually sell dead stock fabric to the public. I mean, they don't sell. I think everyone can just come and get it, and it's a great service. People just come and get, and they also, I think, shred everything and make it into insulation. So that's another use of scraps is if you're considering getting new insulation in your house, to ask for either like, I think it's called scrap fabric or scrap insulation, jeans, old jeans and stuff like that. So definitely ask for that. And then, yeah, we should have more organizations like Fab Scrap, more organizations like Remake. So if anybody wants to get together, and like there's probably a lot of waste fabric in our area, and we should try to support organizations that are doing something about that.
There's also, I know mending can seem really daunting for a lot of people, but there's a lot of classes and workshops out there that offer that. We are hosting one in April as well, a mending workshop, which will be great. But I saw in the chat to define upcycle. So yeah, it's taking these fabric scraps or these clothes that have holes or stains in it, and then, adding a patch, or, cutting off the sleeves if it has a stain, or dyeing it. That's upcycling. So it's just prolonging the life of a garment. Yeah, it's disappointing because, back then they taught us how to sew, right? And like that was like one of our skills that we had to know to keep us equipped. And I think it's very important just to learn the simple steps of just how to sew a button, or ask someone to. Yeah, I think there is a lot of resources there, but I know one thing that makes me like stay focused is to think like where do I want my money invested in? Like, do I really want to pay, like make these richer corporations more richer, which are then like destroying the planet even more? Or do I want to support a small business? Or do I want to go treasure hunting at a thrift store? Or do I want to create new memories with friends at a clothing swap? Like, it just starts to become really, really fun and innovative once you find new ways to I don't want to say consume, like, because we don't really need to consume, There's this really great pledge that Remake has during the summer. It's called the No New Clothes Pledge. I know Mihaela mentioned that in the chat. And it's great because it's like for 90 days, can you do no new clothes? So that looks like not purchasing anything new, that besides undergarments and shoes, I believe. So, and that was, you think it would be challenging, but once you start making the conscious like decisions, you're like, oh wait, like this is not bad. So I took this pledge this last summer, and I'm still on the no new clothes. Even during the holidays, I found ways to see what's out there that is available to regift or thrift or what have you. And it feels really, really good. It feels good that I haven't been contributing to that. And it, like I said, it also leads to more innovation and creativity. So yeah, I hope that inspires some of you to maybe take a pledge like that, for a month or 2 months or 3 months. Try the no new clothes and see what comes from that.
Yeah, I agree. Go clothes shopping in your own closet. I find like at the back of my closet, like it's like 5 different dresses that I've not worn for like 5 years, and I feel like, why didn't I wear them? And it's you're gonna find stuff that you forgot about. And also there are a few clothes, if we just wear them a different way, like wear a different scarf with it. You can have some basic clothes, and then dress them up and put different accessories, and it'll look like a brand new outfit, but you'll have less clothes and just the basic staple clothes, and then dress it up. And that's a good way to buy less clothes. If anyone has questions, please just feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions.
I do. Sophia, hi, it's Dean.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Great
Good.
presentation.
Great.
I'm curious, what would you recommend if we, short of a clothing swap, if we go into the closet and something, we find a variety of clothes that don't fit, or for whatever reason, we're probably not going to wear them anymore. We want to get rid of unsustainable clothes. What would you say are the best places to take them, give them, donate them, that hopefully are not going to throw out 90% or 80% of what we hand to them? Do you have thoughts on where the best places to go with them might be?
Yes, so there's these two organizations, because most of you are in Contra Costa and East Bay, I assume. So during our clothing swap in December, we found two nonprofits where we donated our clothes to. So we had a clothing swap. We ended up having 20 bags of clothing to then donate. So we took them to these nonprofits and they welcomed it with open arms. I am blanking on the name right now, but I will look for it. I know that one of the organizations, they have a free shop. So when we took our clothes to donate, they ended up, because they were all washed and clean, they ended up putting it in their front store, and it was a free store. So people could come in and buy for free some of these clothing, which was great. So I'm just scrolling right now just to remember what they were called.
Sophia, I think it was called the Omni Channel or something.
Omni Commons.
Oh, okay.
And East Bay. Oh, okay. So East Oakland Collective and Omni Commons.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So again, these are clothes that like you would give and they would wear again. In terms of like, I don't know, like undergarments, this is something that you would just like use it as scraps. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I find ways to do it because I'm a seamstress. But yeah, if you guys have some innovative ways to do it as well. But yeah, I know some people use it as like kitchen towels. Basically, they cut them up and they use it as like kitchen towels, which is smart. I know, Sarabi, you mentioned Fab Scrap was a great organization in New York that took all this textile waste. So yeah, I think that for me as well, I would like to find more resources besides those two East Bay collectives to donate to as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I recently found there's a zero waste store in Lafayette called Resourceful. They just opened like about a year ago, and they not only have like all the zero waste solutions like your refillable bottles and the bamboo toothbrushes and everything. They also have a place where people donate their clothes and they have a consignment store. So that's Resourceful. And yeah, I'm sure there are a bunch of thrift stores in this area, which we can get a good find. So if anyone has any good thrift stores they know of, please put them in the chat or let us know.
That's kind of one of our goals, is to create a Bay Area sustainable shops, which includes like small businesses as well that design sustainably. That's something that we're slowly putting together, but this is why Remake is amazing, because they would have some of those resources there available on their website. Also, when you do become an ambassador, they have a community who, if you have these type of questions, like someone's bound to know the answers to. So that's always there too.
All right, this has been such a great discussion, and thank you, Sophia, for just educating us. And so we'd almost coming to the end. So I'd like to talk about next month's film. We're having a really great and very important topic that people can view starting this month, and it's called The Burden from writer-director Roger Sorkin. It's about the U.S. military dependence on oil and the connection between, fossil fuels and our military. I think in general there's a big connection there. Our speaker will be Andrea Marr, the Costa Mesa Mayor Pro Tem, retired military officer and recipient of the White House Champion of Change Award, and her work in energy as a veteran. So I hope you can join us on March 16th, same time, 7 to 8. And please do view this film. And we'll see you then. And thank you for joining us and taking the time to come and learn about this topic. Hopefully you took away some good information, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Sophia.
everyone. Thank you.